Thank you, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm calling this meeting to order. We have one item on the agenda today, and it's a COVID-19 update. So, both, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Madam President. It's nice to see all of you, the council members this evening. And so we'll have report outs from several of our departments. And we're going to start with, on the business side, with Chip and Cliff from CED and Economic Development.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Harrison.
Cliff, do you mind me starting? And then
go right ahead, Chip.
So thank you, Bob, and thank you, members of the council, Madam President. I just wanted to share with you, before we get into specifically what we're doing regarding business, to share with you that the Department of Community and Economic Development has successfully transitioned all of its operations, to the extent possible, out of City Hall, and we continue to do our business now on a daily basis remotely. We are performing all possible planning, processing of permits, reviewing plans, performing inspections, all remotely. We're performing inspections. Probably our greatest challenge in terms of how we have defined what is a critical essential facility for physical inspections, but those inspections that we aren't doing physically that meet the requirements of the governor's order, we're actually doing inspections virtually, where we've made contact with the contractor developer and we're able to perform inspections remotely. Every week has been a challenge, but I will tell you, we're getting more efficient at being able to perform the mission of our department. And that is not more evident than the work going on in Cliff's group in economic development, where we have very, very quickly transitioned the focus of our operations and the support we do. So Cliff would like to tell you about that.
Thank you, Chip. Mr. Harrison, President Perez, members of council, thank you for the time. Just very quickly, just touch on a few of the things that our team has done in response to the COVID-19 situation. First, we converted all our websites to contain resources for affected businesses and individuals. And then we have partnered with our East Side communities of Redmond, Kirkland, Bellevue, and Issaquah, our Startup 425 partners, to actually contract for some direct business counseling and finance support to be able to navigate the SBA programs that are out there. We did that by diverting some of the funds that were awarded to us from the Port of Seattle through Economic Development Grant. We've dedicated full-time staff, a full-time member just to field business assistance requests, and we set up a hot for businesses to be able to have somebody to speak to in these times. We have done outreach to all licensed Renton businesses on multiple occasions via email, and we're doing special outreach currently, just finished contacting all restaurants in Renton by phone. So we have 3 team members who are doing direct business outreach to assess the needs of the businesses. We set up a new Facebook page and a group for Renton businesses together with the Chamber of Commerce and with the Governor's Office. And we have produced 10 videos for social media featuring Renton businesses and how they're coping during these times and how to be able to reach out and support and continue to do business with our local business community. We're gearing up for more direct outreach efforts, and we'll be doing, again, phone calls to different segments of the Renton business community to help them navigate through the process. And we're working to expedite bringing on a new consultant team for the Renton Community Marketing Campaign and get them underway as quickly as possible so that as recovery begins, we can really start to tell the Renton story quickly and get things back to normal as quick as we can.
It's become a job hazard. Forgetting the mute button is on. Thank you, Mr. Long and Mr. Vincent. I appreciate that. The support for our business community has been really important, especially as the rules have kind of rolled out on the CARES Act and how people can access those funds. We've been really trying to be proactive in helping our business community have access to that. Before we'll transition into a public safety update, and I'll start with the police chief, because one of the things actually the police department's been doing is been helping to promote our businesses through their social media and some of the photos that they've been taking on at restaurants and places that are open. So Chief Van Bailey, would you like to report on the public safety update and what's been going on?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. Madam President, council members, it's good to see you. Thank you. It was nice to hear that social media outreach from the police department and seeing Cliff shake his head, because I think he's getting a lot of that feedback. So thank you. That's good to see. Thanks, Cliff. Yes, it was very important from the beginning that the police department that are manning the streets 24/7, that we take care of our folks that need some help. So it was very important for us to get out there, see the businesses, get our pictures taken, and kind of promote their business, letting people know that they're open for business and that they're serving and whatever else they might be doing out there. Another thing we're doing is some outreach. We're doing some story time with police where we're reading kids' stories. We're working on that now. We did a video last week that got some pretty good reviews with one of our talented young officers that sang, Adele. We had a lot of really good reviews on that. So the social media outreach is one of my points here, to say that we're still outreaching to the community to find out what their needs are, what they're experiencing, and to kind of reach out and show that Renton is still open. Despite everything that's going on, there's still businesses that are available, and we encourage people to go and do those things. Internally, our staffing, it looks really good. You know, I talked about we had planned for a 10, 20, and 30% deficit in our forces. We're still looking good. We currently have 5 out. We have no positive tests, but we do have people that intermix with some folks that might have the virus, so we have to wait for testing. But currently we have 5 that are out awaiting the testing of the people that they were dealing with. So that is good. Parks are looking really good. We can watch on cameras and visit. Coolon, we still get a couple of complaints about social distancing. And as officers get complaints and they're available, they can go and check those things out. What they're finding is families walking together that are getting called on, you know, mom, dad, the kids, or a group of kids that live together. So they take them as they come. But we're still responding to those on a non-emergency call. Our personal protective equipment is really good. We've got plenty of donations. People that want to donate masks and gloves and hand sanitizer. It's been fantastic. So we've been taking all those things in. So we're looking really good right now. We're actually distributing a plan for the city employees as far as masks and gloves, since we have enough that we can cross level and make sure everybody has what they need. Calls for service are down. So officers are available to go out and see some of those social distancing calls and monitor the parks. But everything has been looking okay. Still on mute, Bob. Sorry.
I gotta be, yes. All right. I have 2 strikes so far. All right. Thank you, Chief Van Bailey. I appreciate that update on public safety side, on the police side, rather. And we also have with us tonight Fire Chief Marshall from the Renton Regional Fire Authority. And Rick, would you like to provide an update?
Thank you very much. Some really good news to report. As of today, and maybe only today, but Renton Regional Fire Authority has no exposures, isolations, or quarantines. We've seen a total of 3 COVID positive firefighters. All 3 of those appear to have been contracted the disease from being off duty. We have our supply chains for PPE well established, and we have no needs or concerns that we're going to see any problem maintaining PPE, which protects both our employees and our community. So far to date, the COVID calls that we're tracking since this started, it looks like we're about a total of 36, with 30 of those being suspected and 6 being confirmed. Overall, if you look year over year, the number of flu-like symptoms calls is the same as in the previous 3 years. So the overall impacts to our community right now seem to be relatively in check. And we're also seeing, looking at the trending, we anticipated that this previous week and this week would be the kind of the apex, and we are seeing that that looks to be the case. It has been pretty high the last few days, but it's starting to trend down. And then finally, really, what we're doing, like I'm sure in the conversations in the city and all the fire departments around us, is we're really bracing for the unknown financial impacts. And as such, I have implemented a hiring freeze and the deferral of all training and capital purchases until we can have an idea of where we come out of this thing, and to ensure that we can maintain the high level of service that we are currently providing to our community.
Thank you, Chief. And you heard from one of the early reports regarding our social distancing efforts and support within the community. Kelly, are you? Yeah, there you are. And could you report on how it's probably the first time a rec director has ever asked the community not to participate on your recreational facilities, but can you tell us how that's going?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Hi, Council President Perez, council members. Good to see everybody. Meals, if we could start with, I think you had a couple items on there. Meals program real quick. Updating on the team serving the seniors. They've done an amazing job. We've averaged about 115 meals a day. And the seniors are just really excited to be able to continue to get that service. We also did our senior survey. So we were trying to identify if there are any gaps out there that we were missing. We found about 25 so far, maybe might be up to about 30 now, that have some of the seniors that didn't have access to any food on the weekends. So we've utilized our VSHSL grant monies to provide meal kits on the weekends, and our teams are out delivering those to those individuals. So it's great to see that those people are getting taken care of. We also worked with RHA representative, Renton Housing Authority. They also approached us. They had quite a few of their residents in some of their developments there that were not being able to get food. So we helped coordinate with Representative Berquist and some of his volunteers, along with some of our city staff, and we're getting food out to those residents as well. So really trying to take care of our senior population. Our recreation and neighborhood team has been doing a ton of outreach to the preschool students. A lot of people that have already either had previously signed up or registered in some of our programs that we've had to cancel, but we've been keeping in touch with them. And we're getting ready to roll out a couple exciting things with our neighborhoods and our community that will be providing input to the council here shortly. With regards to the social distancing, we have implemented quite a few measures to help police in the enforcement side of it, and also on our side, so that it's hopefully less vandalism of people that will be getting out in this wonderful weather. As we know, the parks are open while the amenities remain closed, which means playgrounds, sports courts, skate park, all of those kind of things. So we added a couple additional measures at Coulon. The boat launch was the only area that was open, if you will, in the parking aspect. Boating is an allowable use per the governor's order. So we didn't close the boat launch down. It has signs in there that people could be cited if they park their cars in there. And unfortunately, we had, with the nice weather, too many people in there. So we established two huge signs in the entryway that say, reinforcing what our other signs say as far as boating. Parking is for boaters only. No individual cars, keep your social distancing and those kind of things. So we've worked with police together on that, and so we should see a better, less gathering in that place and less in Coulon. One of the things, all of our gates are locked into Coulon, so north and south entrances, the north entrance, pedestrian entrance, and also the entrance that comes out of the Hyatt side as well. So we're trying to eliminate as much activity as we can that would allow people to gather in bigger groups. I do want to remind that we've got a couple reports too that there are no dogs allowed in Coulon and in Kennydale beach areas. And I know people are anxious to get outside with this good weather, but we're trying to remind people to make sure that they're abiding by the governor's order and we can get out of this as quick as possible. The other thing that we did at Liberty Park was another real high gathering place, the skate park and the basketball court. We put in, you've probably seen the security fencing around the skate park, and we also blew in wood chips all through the skate park, so if somebody were to find their way in, there's no way that they would be able to skate in there. We also installed plywood over the tops of the basketball hoops. And I was down over the weekend and getting reports from our team as well as Ed's team, and we had no issues, anybody getting in there. So that effort has helped. We did, originally, we were going to keep the community garden closed because of the social gathering component. But with further conversation with the mayor and the food that this provides for a lot of our residents, we are going to open it and establish a schedule so that there's only a certain amount of limited people that can be in there at one time, but at least we'll be able to get the gardens open, and I know they'll be really excited about that. Our events, as we had noted in the mayor's newsletter last week, the events for April and May, Arbor Day, Memorial Day, and our volunteer projects have been canceled. We spent quite a bit of time through last week and over the weekend talking with staff and with our vendors and our sponsors and things. As much as we absolutely hate to do this for the public, the 4th of July is going to be canceled. We don't have sponsors for that. And as far as being responsible for the safety of our public and our community, it's fairly realistic that we will not be allowed to have that big of social gathering that early on, where we have thousands, close to 10,000 people that come through Coulon Park. So, like I said, we absolutely hate to do it, but we're going to find other ways once we're allowed to. Smaller celebrations and things. We're working with our neighborhoods as well to be able to celebrate that. And then we also had a meeting with our River Days Board of Directors and a lot of our task force members. And unfortunately with that, that takes a year plus to plan, we have quite a few of our sponsors and vendors canceling a lot of their events and not being able to do that in conjunction with the amount of staffing it takes. And by the time when the order is lifted and we are allowed to hire, it will take a while to get staff into place. And again, realistically, to have the huge crowds throughout that park for a 3-day period doesn't seem realistic, as well as the inflatables and things like that we need to make sure are sanitized. So the board is right now working on some other options, whether we do a smaller 1-day event or a few isolated or satellite type events through the community. We still want to be able to allow the community to celebrate, and we're going to continue to find ways to do that. And then lastly, Henry Moses Aquatic Center and our beaches. While we've not closed the HMAC Center yet, we are still, with the amount of time it takes to hire and train 100 plus lifeguards, and then also the money that it takes to get the pool ramped up again, we're waiting until, if I could say, the last minute to decide what we can do with that. So it depends on, again, when we're allowed to start ramping back up again. HMAC may not be, a couple options, may not be open, or it may be open in a reduced capacity. We do and will try to hire as many lifeguards as we can. We figure about 30 of them to take care of the beaches. If people are going to be out and about, we want to make sure that we can at least provide some oversight of those areas. So again, it's really disappointing, but our rec teams and our event teams are working hard to try to find some other outlets for the community once they're able to get out and about.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So in the interest of time, we have about 10 minutes before the council meeting. We wanted to give the council an opportunity to ask any questions they may have. I was hoping to have Doug report briefly on some of the intergovernmental affairs items, but if you have a question regarding that, we can go there. And there are several other administrators that are here as well this evening. So if there's some questions, we're available here for.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate everybody's presentation. This was very, very informative. So, council members, do you have any questions? Well, it seems that there are none, so you can continue your presentation, Bob.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Doug, would you like to do your piece on the CARES Act and kind of some of the intergovernmental work we've been doing? The mayor and I and Doug and Preeti have been spending quite a bit of our time working with the various levels of government. And certainly we've been spending a lot more time on our federal agenda than we probably anticipated at the beginning of the year. But Doug, if you could give us a briefing on that, that would be great.
Well, good evening, council members. Yeah, I would agree that the members of the Washington Congressional Delegation definitely know who our new mayor is, because he's been great about getting in front of them on federal issues. So I'll report on a couple of things. With the CARES Act that Congress recently passed and the president signed into law, you probably heard that there was $150 billion of state and local aid that was going out the door. For Washington State, that means $2.95 billion. And for the state of Washington itself, it means a little over $1.6 billion. But in the CARES Act, the local aid is restricted to those that have a population of 500,000 or more. In our state, that's only 5 jurisdictions, the city of Seattle and 4 counties, the largest of which is King County. And so one of the things we've been working on, as the rules are getting nailed down as to how much those various counties in Seattle are getting, it looks like King County is going to be getting a minimum of $260 million in relief in their general fund. This doesn't count things like transit or CDBG grant money or the like. And remember that under the CARES Act, that money can only be used for what are called necessary expenditures to offset COVID-19 response. So while King County obviously is having a lot of obligations, $260 million is quite a bit. And we're teaming up with Bellevue, who we met with today, and others to try and put together a coalition of cities that meets with the county and seeks to get a percentage of the $260 million that can be distributed to cities like ours for some of the significant COVID-19 costs that we've been bearing. So that's one of our items on a federal level. The other one is that there will be a 4th phase relief package that Congress will start working on next week. And there is already a bill called the Coronavirus Relief Act that includes $250 billion for cities and counties that are under 500,000 population. And we've been working to line up co-sponsors from our delegation. Congressman Smith and Congresswoman Schreier are both co-sponsors of that legislation. It also, by the way, includes, there's also going to be a move to add about $250 billion to the small business relief assistance, and you heard Cliff earlier talking about that. So that's on a federal level. On a state level, I quickly mention 2 things to you. One is that as the stay-at-home order continues on, and with the high likelihood that it could be extended past May 4th, we're working with some other cities to see if some of these industry sectors that can do work in a socially distancing safe way and an online way can potentially get opened back up. One of them is automobile sales, and obviously you know how big of an impact that has, not only to the state's budget but to ours. So we've been part of a group that's communicated to the governor's office a hope that in some form automobile sales can be brought back, at least online or with some respect for social distancing safeguards. We're also preparing for a very, very likely special session of the state legislature, and conversations I've had as recently today would indicate that right after the state revenue forecast on June 17th, the legislature may very quickly go back into special session. And so I want to give a shout out to Preeti, who's helping to organize us putting together priorities on that and meeting with the administrators and being able to have a compact agenda that allows us to go to Olympia and hopefully to protect all the revenues we have as they go into cut mode and seek some distribution of the state dollars. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. I know there was a lot of conversation about finances today. We anticipate having a presentation to the council next week, Monday, on the financial picture that we're facing and some of our plans on how we're going to deal with that. And that concludes our presentation for this evening. Thank you, Madam President and council members.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, everybody, for the great presentation. And do we have any questions? Well, hearing none, I'm going to adjourn this meeting so we'll get ready for our council meeting at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much to everybody.